What's going on, everybody? It is the Willie Ashford from the Black Culture Podcast. I know you're ready to get into this interview, but before you do,
make sure that you like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Apple, Google, and Spotify at the Black Culture Podcast. And
also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Black Culture Podcast. Peace.
So, Willie, man, this is one we've been waiting on for a long time.
Quite some time, yeah, man.
I think when we first started the podcast, we had a list. But this brother came highly referred to us by quite a few people, Ron Johnson and a few others. But what he doesn't know is I've been tracking his moves for a really long time. And I actually purposely didn't tell you this story just so I could say it live on the podcast. So I used to go to the Word Church. Okay. And, God, I don't know how long ago. That was like 10 years or so ago. And, you know, the Word Church has this huge lot that you pull into. And way back then, probably one of the most friendliest and smiling people was this guy we about to interview. He was a parking lot attendant.
Wow.
Yeah, at the Word Church. Not that long after that, I started hearing things about him. He's writing books and he's doing management consulting and all kinds of other stuff. And I mean, fast forward to today, man. He's the co-owner of CLE Consulting in downtown Cleveland. He's an author. He's the co-owner of Black Box Fix. Sits on a number of boards and just all around. He's the founder of Real Black Friday. I don't know if you've ever
told me
to
about that.
Yeah, I went to the one at Edgewater and the one in downtown Cleveland. It's dope, bro. Like super dope. We definitely have to check that out. But without any further ado, I want to welcome to the Black Culture Podcast, Larese Purnell.
Hey, man, I'm just glad to be here, man. It's like when you're talking to somebody for the first time and they tell you stuff that you forgot about.
Like, man, I did that.
I'm like, oh, yeah, I did do that, right?
Yeah, man.
But no, I'm glad to be here, man. Always, just a privilege anytime someone gives me, takes the time to want to even ask me a question. So it's always a humbling experience. But, definitely, looking forward to this conversation today. Thanks for having me out.
Thanks for coming, man. Yeah, appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and dive in, man. You successful guy, doing big things. And by the way, congratulations, man.
Oh.
Yeah.
Were we talking about the wedding?
Yes.
Okay. look. Yeah. So, 13 days, 18 hours. And I'm going to give you seconds in a minute.
Make sure you get it right.
No, but it's the countdown. I was telling my mentor this morning, I was at the office, and I'm looking at 90, and I said, I feel like it's a fast train coming down 90 with no brakes coming right at me. It's coming fast, man. But I'm excited. It's going down on Juneteenth.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like
that. It's like if I couldn't do an event at that time, why not just have my wedding? So it gives me an opportunity to support our businesses in the community. So
that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome, bro. Well, let's take a trip back down memory lane. Let's start from the beginning, because not a lot of people, they know who you are, but they don't know your story.
Absolutely.
And from what I've read, man, you started from the bottom.
Oh. like Drake.
Right, yeah.
We need the music.
Yeah.
Started from the gutter, man.
Yes, sir. So, just with a single mom, just trying to do her best, man, dealing with, alcohol abuse and, just jumping from homeless shelter to homeless shelter. I tell, people that, when I watched The Pursuit of Happiness, I saw myself. Because I remember, going to shelters right here in the Cleveland community, and I'll never forget one night. And it's funny, we don't realize the things that our kids don't ever forget, So that's why it's very important that we watch there and pay attention to the experiences that we take them through, because they don't forget them. And we got locked out of a shelter one night because they had a curfew.
Wow.
And we missed the bus to get there. They gave us bus tickets to go back and forth to school and different things, we needed to do. And we literally missed a bus, and it was next to a Wendy's. And I'll never forget the manager letting us in because it was raining outside. And we literally went to the bathroom. My mom was, trying to dry us off and all that. And we literally sat in there till they closed. And so when I saw that picture, it really, reminded me of what I went through, growing up. And truly, I tell people I'm not new to this. I'm true to this, So when I teach people about just poverty, how to get out of it, and, the impact that needs to be made in our community financially, I'm not teaching because it's a job or it was something I was mandated to do or something I got educated to do. It's what I watched happen. And I just, made a commitment to that, making sure that other people didn't have to go through that. Because we always say life is our best teacher.
Yeah.
I think that's a lie. It doesn't have to be our. Why do we want our kids to have bad credit because we had it so we can teach them out of it? Just teach them how to have good credit. Why teach people to how to lose their homes? Or that's gonna happen one day, or to put in people's heads that you're gonna be broke your whole life. So why?
It's funny you say that. My father used to always tell me, you want to just have a job so you can feed yourself. I'm thinking like, I don't just want to feed myself.
Yeah.
I want to thrive.
That's right. That's
what
right.
I mean?
That's
I don't ever want to be in a position where I just have to go to work just to earn the check, just so I can stay alive.
Yeah.
I'm trying to grow as an individual.
Absolutely. And I say, be in a position where you forget it's payday. I teach. I always say
awesome.
that during any financial literacy course I teach. I want you to forget that day actually exists. I want you to walk around your office with a level of swag that it's confidence. It's never arrogance. It's confidence that if they give you a pink slip, yeah, you're gonna feel some kind of way. But on the way to the elevator, you're going to think like, I'm straight though. I got a little time to get to the next opportunity. I'm not, worried if I'm going to lose my home. Because the average person in our community, their home goes into foreclosure every 7 years. We only last 7 years in our home. So again, it's, just teaching people that all you have to do is change your mindset. We say we don't have the money, to invest in our futures or to put away for tomorrow. That's a lie. Because if I see you in a McDonald's drive-through, you have it. If I see you at Cheesecake Factory, you have it. It's just where you prioritize where your money goes. So,
It's funny because we talk about it all the time about the mindset, like how you say your dad, how his mindset was. And I was kind of like that too growing up. It was get a job so you can make sure you pay your bills on time. But really the mindset should be you should build wealth. And that if you go through life with a mindset of I want to get a job, get a pension so I can retire at a certain age. To me, that's not the blueprint right there. Because I'm sure you heard it from your dad. I heard it from people in my family was get a job so you can retire. But it starts, like you say, you can't teach that, because schools aren't really teaching our children what they should. Really, I think we said it last week, you teaching at a young age, you're teaching to get a kid to wake up early, go to school. You're teaching them how to be a worker at a young age. Wake up early, go to school from basically 8 hours, come back home, and rinse, repeat, do it all over again. So when you get older, you're already in that mindset. Definitely if you don't have the right teaching like a Larese Purnell in your life to show you, hey, listen, this is how you build wealth. This is what you start right here to do to build wealth. So how can we, the people as parents, start changing that in this generation?
Hey, you kind of took the words out of my mouth.
Right.
Because, what do the statistics say if by the third grade, if a child does not learn to read, they are more likely to be incarcerated. So the same thing, let's switch it to now poverty. At a certain level, if we don't teach them to have a mindset around saving, what money is, we can expect poverty, right? So I challenge parents that are listening that if you do not, I would say, hold your district accountable to ensuring that we have financial literacy in our school in some manner, then we're doing our kids a disservice. Because the reality is you send them there because you can't teach them science, you can't teach them math. In a lot of cases, most parents can't teach financial literacy. So then let's hold the institutions that we pay tax dollars to make sure that they help our kids go to that next level, even in that area. Especially when we're talking about that we are behind. Statistically, they say in the next 5 years, we are ready. When you think about, black wealth, we are at 10% from a net asset or a net worth compared to our white counterparts. But in the next 5 years, that number is going to lessen even more, where we will be in a negative place. Wow. Negative place. So we're going in the wrong direction. So the only thing that I would encourage you to do again is ask your school districts, are we investing in financial literacy? And make that a mandate. You hold all the cards. You call the shots. And I'll say in my neighborhood, the parents make you aware that they call the shots. And that's just what I just encourage parents to do.
Now, coming from your background, unfortunately, you're an anomaly. Yeah. Because most of us don't make it out of poverty. And it's mindset, right? It's like if you have the mind to do better, you will do better. So, what was it that was inside of you that fueled your passion to not only make it out of that place, but to also help other people?
You know, when I look back, and I always say this story, and my brother and fraternity brother and good friend Bashir Jones, we share this in common. Thing that blows me away, and I just talked to her actually this morning. She's my mom. I talk to her every day. You know, matriarch of our family. You know, even as she went through, you know, what she went through in life, she's one of my biggest. In my phone, when she comes up, it says #1 cheerleader. She's my #1 cheerleader, man. And when I look at it is, you know, and I'm her #1 cheerleader as well. She, you know, when we were going through that, we actually missed getting into that shelter today, not because we were at the mall walking around, not because we were somewhere fooling around. We were actually coming from a church in Shaker Heights. We were there feeding people that were in poverty.
So
We were
hold on,
feeding
wait a minute.
people in poverty.
And you were in poverty.
And we were living in a shelter. We were homeless. We didn't have a
Wow.
key to our own home.
Wow.
So literally during that period, my mother, you know, and I would always think like, we're poor. like we don't have no food. We giving food out. We don't have no food. Like, what we doing here? So no, seriously, when I look back at that, you know, it really showed me the character. Even when you're going through life, you can still see somebody's character. And my mother's character was always, you give back. You be a blessing to your neighbor. Even when you don't have, you give back. You know, we always hear, you know, this certain person will give us the shirt off their back. But literally, I watched a woman who truly did that and lived that. So for me, it was like, you know, when I watched that, it's like, how can I not give back? And then as a Christian man, you know, I feel that it is a mandate from God that I truly, you know, make this a part of my life. And the older I get, the more I want to do it now, to be honest, because I feel like the more God gives me, you know, with, you know, higher, you know, I would say blessings, I think that you have to be more of a blessing. So there's more accountability to that.
More required.
Yeah, it's more required. So it's like, I'm afraid, and I'll tell you, the biggest fear I have in life is not that I can't pay my bills, is that God will take his hand off of me. And so that's what I live to every day. I'm afraid of that. So it's like because I know he's put that in me. Like when people call me, like you guys call on a Saturday, I'm like, if I get a chance to talk to somebody and maybe one person's life will be changed, hey, that's a part of my calling. So,
Which I need to bring that up. So I told you how we connected. All I did was send him a DM on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I saw you were online, and I said, "Hey man, Ron Johnson said that we should interview you. You come highly." I was trying to keep it brief because I
Yeah.
really wanted to go into detail.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Call my office Monday, and we're gonna get it set up."
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, it was just like that. Being who he is, which is another point I want to get into. You know, a lot of times with us, and we talk about this a lot, when we see wealth, it's always the material thing, the bling, the cars, the homes. And how did you not fall into that trap and remain humble enough to not only bring yourself up out of poverty, but want to bring others with you? Like, how did you keep that sense of humility about yourself?
you know, and you know, and to the Christians listening out there, you know, some of y'all like, oh, he got a tattoo? Yeah, I got a couple tattoos.
Same here.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be judging me right now. Anyway, so, but no, I have a tattoo on my arm, and holy, hungry, and humble.
Ooh, I like that.
And when I say every morning, I did it to just what you just said, is to give a reminder to myself every morning when I look in the mirror that I make sure that I never think it's me that does anything that I've accomplished, but it's through God, and he's just using me. I'm just a vessel. And I live that, and people around me know I truly live that. And I'm far from perfect, but I live by that motto. My kids know. And you know, the one thing that they'll get in trouble for me is if I ever sense any arrogance. It's like, because just as quick as God gives it to you, he can also take it away from you. And I tell you my biggest fear. So with that being said is, I don't get caught up, because I've watched, you know, people come and go. And the same people you see going up, you'll see coming down as well. So that's why I treat everybody with love. And it's like, you know, people are like, you know, when they come to my firm, they're like, man, you treat me so good. You know, and I don't even make a lot of money. And I'm like, well, not yet. So one day you might be the biggest client I have here. So I teach my employees that I don't care who walks through the door, you treat everybody with love. Somebody comes in there, they smell like pee, they're homeless, they come in, that's the day you'll lose your job. You put them out and throw them out like they're nobody, because we're all somebody, and life hits us all. So for me, I look at that, when I ride through downtown Cleveland and I ride past that homeless shelter at least 3 times a week, at least, because it reminds me that I lived there one day. And I've adopted them for the last 12 years. I've went back at Christmas and multiple times throughout the year to give. They don't know this, but now what I've done is I'm moving into a different place where a part of my life insurance will go to that homeless shelter.
Wow.
So when we talk about truly creating a legacy beyond when we're here, like that's something that changed my life. The people there were angels to me and my family. So I never want to forget that.
And I think it's like, I pray every day, like, God, help me remain humble, because I never want to turn into the person to where I forget where I came from. Because if you don't, the more accomplished you get, the more money you get. If you're not careful, you'll feel more entitled.
Oh,
And you see a lot of people like that came from the bottom, but now they have, let's be honest, money can put you in places that you didn't even think you could be at. Yeah. So if you're not careful, it's easy for your mind frame to switch. But you brought up your employees, and Alex, you and I talk about this a lot, which makes me, I want to get into customer service.
Yes.
Which definitely
Which I got to give a shout out to your assistant. Okay. 5-star.
Oh.
5-star, bro.
Jennifer, you hear that?
Yes.
You hear that, Jennifer? Okay.
Shout out to her.
Okay.
But like, we talked about this too. We'll go into a place that's, let's say, where there's mainly black people, black owned, and we expect it to be bad customer service. Now, when we go to another suburban area where there's white people, we expect it to be good. To almost to the point when you go to somewhere where it's black owned or whatever, you were surprised. Like,
when you get good customer
you're
service.
like, wow, you guys did really good. Like, why is that? And first off, what's your strategy when you're teaching customer service?
So that's a great question. We might need the rest of the day. We might have to go get on the drums and all that. But no, great question. So one of the reasons why I push the circulation of the dollar within our community, it's like going to a factory that's doing it manually, because that's all the resources they have, and then going to a factory that automates it. They can create a higher volume, right? Mm-hmm. There's more streamline, right? There's more efficiency, right? But then when you go to the place that's doing it manually, it's a lot of mistakes. Employees are worn out. They don't have all the resources to be super successful. And that's the same thing I think. I say, and Walmart, don't kill me. Don't talk about me. But we go into Walmart, right? This is $1 billion company. And it's, about 30 registers? About 30 registers, right? Mm-hmm. How many are open? Maybe 3 on a lucky night, on a Saturday, and the line is all the way back to the toy section, and half the people in the line are tweeting and on Instagram at my favorite store, Walmart, and you just sat there for an hour to get 3 items because you got somebody in front of you with 200 items in their cart, and you still keep going back.
Right.
And we don't talk about that.
Right.
We go into a small black-owned business that is struggling to even have the structure to market their business, to have the proper technology. You have that owner who's the marketer, they're the finance person, they're the customer service rep, they're the HR person, they're everything to that business. But if we got to stand in line with 3 people, there's an issue.
Mm-hmm. There's an issue. Yep.
So my thing, and I'm not knocking, and when I talk about black-owned businesses, I tell people, I don't say support them just because they're black. Support ones who do good business. Right. Who do good business. But I just have to, make sure that we understand, if we don't circulate and put money into those businesses, how can we expect them to elevate?
Mm-hmm. And what's funny about that is that the same people that are yelling, support black owned, and I'm not saying it's all of them, but it's a few of them that aren't actually doing it. It's just a trend. Like, it's just, it's like a social trend. Like, they have this thing, because I own a business, and there's a thing on my Google business profile that says you can have a badge that says I'm a black-owned business. Yes. And I said, the only reason I don't want to do that is because I'm an American-owned business. It shouldn't matter.
Just happen to be black-owned.
I just happen to be black-owned.
Like it turned into charity. Like, how many people get up there? I support black-owned business. Like, it should be normal. Like, you don't go say, I'm about to go support Walmart.
I'm a support Gucci.
You don't say
Yeah,
that.
I'm
You
a
just
support
go do
Bentley.
it.
No, you
just
don't
go
say
do
that.
it. Yeah.
Just go be a customer.
just
But
go
I
be.
think that's a good segue. The real Black Friday.
Yes,
Amazing.
I appreciate that.
Amazing concept, amazing event. I've been to two, and that's actually how I found out about a lot of businesses. But talk about how you created that and the mission of the Real Black Friday.
So if people don't know, I mean, I had the opportunity. I was doing a tour, a financial literacy tour, and traveling the country. And I noticed, I mean, I would be in arenas, I would be everywhere. I mean, thousands of people would get, and I would literally have a couple hundred people in line. And as I would travel to the different, zip codes, I would, by the time I'm done, I would realize that it was more people talking about their business struggling than they would talk about their personal finances. And I'll never forget this. I'm not a dreamer, but when people around me know when I dream, it's something God dropped to me because you won't hear me say, "Oh, I dreamed this. I dream." Some people are like, "Oh, I'm dreaming I'm gonna open a car wash tomorrow." Like, hey, that was 30 years ago. They told you that. They're still talking about it. But no, seriously, I literally dreamed that, and I'll never forget. On a Monday morning, I woke up. And I called a couple people that I was really close to, and I stood. I have a red chair in my room. I was standing up on the chair because I was so excited. I was going crazy. And if you're a visionary, when something comes in your spirit, like you can't sleep. Right. And I'm pacing around the house. I'm like, I'm losing my mind. I'm off that day. And I'm just like, I got this vision. I got to help Black businesses. And I kind of got it. I was driving back from Detroit. I spoke at a place in Detroit, and I was back in the car, and I was coming back, and I was just like, sitting in the back seat, and it just kept like, man, businesses are struggling around the country, and this is a big issue in our city, and the only way, how do we change that? And literally, God made it so clear to me that night. I woke up that day, and I called my spouse. I called, a couple people I was close to. Greg Beckham, who owns Beckham B&M's Barbecue. I called Maisha, Wilson, who owns New Life Fitness, and a couple of them that were close to me as entrepreneurs. And I said, hey, I got this idea. And I said, if I'm crazy, I'm going back to sleep because I'm off. I'm very tired. And they were like, no, that's good. And I just started laying out. When I say the plan was clear as day, I had the whole plan, what I was going to do, how I was going to execute it. Didn't have it nowhere on paper yet. And from there, the rest is history. And I started for about 14 weeks. Again, people see your glory. They don't know your story and the sacrifices you make to get to a certain place. For 14 weeks, I had a Yukon at the time. I threw my little kids in the back seat. Every Saturday, I would get up at 7 a.m. I would put them in a car, and they would just ride around the city. And I would just go to Black-owned businesses throughout Cleveland, Northeastern Ohio. And I would walk in and say, tell me your problems. They didn't know who I was. I had no following. I used to be against social media. I'm never getting on social media until I did the book. And they were like, Larese, you can't start traveling without a social media. I'm like, I'm not going to really work it. I'll get it, but I just don't want to do social media. And all that being said is, I did that, and I would walk, and I guess God just made it clear that it was something, because literally Black businesses started to receive me. Like, they didn't know who I was. I was a total stranger walk into their business and ask them how we can make it better. They're like, who is this guy? Are you running for office? What are you doing? And it showed me a trust factor that we're missing in our community as well. Mm-hmm. And when I would come in and literally, I'll never forget, this guy had a cleaners, in the Kinsman area. He literally had me come in. I went into the office. He sit here. And I realized I'm sitting on the safe. And right there, it hit me like, oh, there's a trust. This man has me. He doesn't know me from Adam, but I'm sitting on top of his safe that he just put some money in, and I'm sitting here and I'm a stranger. So I'm like, okay, there's something different going on here. So I did that, compiled information, realized that there was a need to connect our people. And again, that's when we started the expo, and we went from there.
Wow.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah. And so I'll never forget this too. Going back to the word church.
Yes.
I remember hearing Pastor Vernon say, this young brother helped me get my finances together.
Yes.
Now, this is when the word church got over 10,000 members, right? I mean, just huge. And he's like, this young brother helped me get my finances together. And he wrote this book. I said, I'm definitely getting that book.
Yes.
Right? And then 2 weeks ago, I'm on Facebook, and I see Akin Africa. because he has a podcast too.
Yeah.
And he writes this really long post and says, I've interviewed accountants over the years, but nobody has ever sat down with me and showed me the strategies like CLE Consulting with Larese Purnell and your partner.
Yeah.
So talk about CLE Consulting and the work that you do there, because you're helping a lot of people, man.
Yeah. Who would have ever thought? And when you look, and everybody here in this room, when you look at your life and you really sit down and think about it, and think about the steps or stages God has taken you through, when you really think about it, it's going to freak you out how God will line stuff up and you do stuff and you're like, well, how am I doing that? How did I do that? And, how is that going to help me futuristically? Never realized how everything was like a stair step to where he was taking me ultimately, and never thought that CLE would be a mission-driven accounting firm. Mission, like my counterparts are like, mission, like, dude, this is a for-profit business. Like, we're accountants. Like, what do you mean mission? Like, why would you mix a nonprofit and a for-profit model? But never thought that I would be able to create an organization that would align with the Real Black Friday. Because as I started to do the Real Black Friday, I realized, like, that's good, but there's still no structure in our community, so we can't even sit at tables or even create our own tables because there's no structure to elevate. So what CLE has allowed us and my partner Mel Treese and I to do is to really help our community to put structure in place. Now I not only get to ride through the community and see the shelters and the places and businesses that helped me as a young child, and ride by and think of those memories. I get to ride by big corporations that I was able to help get that $10 million loan, that $1 million loan, acquire that 20,000, 25,000 foot, facility, or go from one location to 9 locations to 16 locations. So not only, it's one thing to talk about it, but I think the thing that would scare people, if I put out, and literally I was talking to the client this morning about it, if I put out the millions on top of millions of dollars that we've been able to impact, it would blow your roof off. So again, God has used us to really be a place that is no judgment zone and a place you can trust, but a place that's going to hold you accountable to your next level. So that's who we truly are.
So you sit in a place where a lot of people want to be. Forget the finance, the money. There's so many people that want to make an impact on the community, on their people like you have. But most people go back to resource. They feel like they don't have the resource to. To the people that want to make an impact, that want to help out, that want to start change, but they don't feel like they can because they don't know where to start, what would be your advice to them? Because you hear plenty of people all the time, man, I want to do something for the community. I want to start change. But either they don't have a plan or they really don't believe that they can do it.
If you change one life, that's a blessing. And when I first started out, I would go into a room teaching financial literacy, and it would be 3 people in that room. I started out teaching little kids. I practice on kids. And some of y'all probably are grown now and laughing like he sure did practice on that. Because I always thought I would never speak in front of people.
Really?
Like Pastor Vernon used to say to me, man, I want you to teach us. I'm like, that's not me. I want to stay in the background. I never thought I would stand on somebody's stage and teach financial literacy, and then let alone get in front of thousands of people and teach. I never thought that. Never wanted. It was never on my radar to do that. But sometimes, your plans is not God's plan. And he shifted me, and even people around me, I lost friends through the process because it was like, I didn't even know that's where God was taking me. I was just doing the work, and doors started to open, and I'm like, okay, didn't want that, didn't ask for that. But hey, I'm gonna walk in it if that's where he would have me to be. So with that being said, don't despise small beginnings, because everybody has to start somewhere. Everybody. That's what it is. And it's like, and then the other thing is, once you're clear that that's your purpose, be willing to put the work in for it. Because again, they see your glory and don't know your story. Most people don't know the sacrifices. I put my family's money in to start the Real Black Friday. I sacrificed buying my kids stuff to start the Real Black Friday. I use my gasoline. I invested, because when I walked in those businesses, I never took something for free. They would be like, Larese, eat for free. Even to this day, when I walk in a black business in Cleveland, they're like, oh man, you ain't got to pay to eat, Larese. We got you. And I said, don't you dare ring me up for that. And you know what? Pay for the people in front of me as well, because I'm there to support and build those businesses.
That's crazy.
How can we ask a business that we encourage and say we want to build them, but we asking for discounts and free food?
Oh, go there.
Bro, how often are we asking for the hookup?
Yeah.
Asking for a discount.
Just because you go and you say, oh, I know hey man, like, no, you're not gonna go nowhere else.
or
Ask for a hookup.
or if we go to, and I'll just use this example, it's colorism, right? We go to an establishment where the owners don't look like us, we expect to pay.
Yes.
But if we go into a place where they do look like us, and it can be the exact same concept, we're looking for some angle.
And then get offended and get upset when you don't get the hookup.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we supposed to be our people. That's what they like to thought. I'm like,
So
you supposed to be with us.
I'm probably crazy. My mother gets a 50% discount at my store.
Okay.
And y'all probably like, that's your mama. But that's the problem. But I help to take care of my mother now.
Right.
So it's like, Ma, if I don't make no money, then how can I help to take care of you? So we got to pick or choose one. And it's still product. But guess what? You know, most times when I go, so y'all people probably like, what? He make his mama? So let me clear this up. Most times I end up picking her food up, so I'm paying for it anyway. So let's clear that up. So all that being said, though, is my cousins can go in there and get a discount. I don't do that. Because if you're there, you were going to go, if you're in Legacy Village, you were going to go to Capitol Grill. You were going to go to Mango Tree, Brio's, Cheesecake Factory.
Yep.
So why, as your cousin, don't you want to see me be successful?
Yep.
And all skin folk ain't kinfolk.
No.
And the reality is, if we want to see our people go to the next level, we got to be willing to support them. And not just support them in words. I don't need you posting about me. Spend some money when you come see me. So a CLE, don't call me if you want the hookup. But what I'm going to do is, though, I'm going to give you a quality service.
Absolutely.
But I can't pay my employees on the hookup. On Friday, they don't want to hear that was my boy who came through here, I did their taxes, and then I charge them half price. They still want a real paycheck.
Absolutely.
I can't pay them with Monopoly.
Right. You can't pay them with a hookup.
Yeah.
We just hooked up about 30 people.
Right.
So y'all part of the vision, right? So no, they have families to feed as well. So
Absolutely.
again, so all that hooking up and asking for free stuff and all that stuff, that has to stop. Stop doing our people like that. You're not negotiating nowhere else. You're not in Macy's negotiating. I have never seen nobody negotiate a Saks. You know what?
glad we
Those
got that on
Gucci
camera.
$600. You know,
Minimum.
man, yeah, minimum.
And I just want to stay right there because we want to get these big checks so we can go spend our money to buy these European-owned brands, right? No matter what it is, it's like that's an aspiration for us. But when it comes to spending money with people who look like us in our own community, $600 is too much.
Too much.
But you just bought that $2,000 coach
What
bag.
they go? Oh, y'all tripping, man. Y'all prices be too high, man. Like, no, not really. It's the same thing you gonna spend when you go up the street.
But I'll tell you something, Willie, and I'll tell you this too,
Yeah.
Larese. I had to work on my own mind to deprogram and then reprogram that because that's subliminal programming.
That's right.
Me growing up, my father would always tell me, you can't do business with black folks.
Oh yeah.
My grandfather said the same thing. You can't do business with black. So subliminally, that got into my subconscious. And over the years, it came to a place that honestly, I think it took me until I was about your age, about late 20s, early 30s to really realize that's the wrong way of thinking. I want somebody to not just support, because that sounds like charity to me, patronize my business continually. And I know I'm going to give them a good service. But I don't want them to look at me just because of the color of my skin and judge the work I'm going to do or how much they should pay. And so I want to hit you with this, something that we both love, and I'm sure you do too. Football, sports, right? We just had the NFL draft here. And if you notice, I don't know if you watched it, all the brothers was pieced up, suited and booted, right? Especially for that first round.
Yep.
We know where they money going, right? Saw this on the podcast. Which way is wealth supposed to flow?
Elaborate. Down.
Yeah, it's supposed to flow.
It flows
But
down,
for
yeah.
those guys, it ends up
Flowing
flowing up.
That's right.
And that's a problem. So
Because you
how,
see generations in that house that it's about to go to.
yeah, and here's
Before
what,
them.
Here's what trips me out. Y'all got hands, y'all got legs, y'all got brains. Why can't y'all work?
Yeah.
Why are you sitting back?
They waiting for the ticket.
So once I get on, I'm just supposed to pay for your lifestyle, and you do absolutely nothing.
So, one before I jump into that, I want to say today I have 3 different black-owned brands on. I have the hat on from Layers. I have, Premier, barber studio, Lux Barber Studio here in Cleveland. I'm wearing his clothes. And then the tennis shoes I have on were painted by a local artist. She changed the color for me to match what I'm wearing with Tone. So again, intentionality. We have to be intentional about truly support, our people that live. So I see you. Yeah. But now to go into the NFL players, 85% of NFL players leave the league in bankruptcy because, what happens is, you have somebody who came from the hood of Detroit, the hood of Philadelphia, hood of Cleveland, and you expect overnight they become overnight millionaires for their mindsets to be different. How could you expect that if their schools never provided financial literacy? If they came from poverty, how do we expect them to leave the league as multimillionaires?
And think about that, literally overnight.
Yeah.
Like I remember Deshaun Watson saying he literally sat up and watched his phone and watched the app just to see. He's like, I'd never seen that much money. Like overnight.
Overnight. So we have, and we're blessed to, we work with about 11 players, in the league. And so I get to watch. And it's the funniest thing that the families don't like me.
I wonder why.
Because what you just said is, well, I'm your uncle. If without me, you wouldn't be in the league. I took you to every practice for 18 years. That's why you're in the league today. Or my cousin, I want to start this barbecue spot. Need you to sponsor that. I can run businesses in your city for you, but I don't know nothing about business. Just give me $1 million, but I don't know nothing. I'm going to do my best with it. But that's what happens. A guy like me comes and says, no, you made $5 million this year. You're going to see probably about $3 million of it. Guess what? You tell me you can't live off of $350,000 to $400,000, and they're like, "What do you mean, Larese?" What we're gonna do is we're gonna go meet with Key, Huntington, Chase, Bank of the West, wherever we're at, and you're gonna put all that into investments. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna live off the interest your whole career, because all it takes is one bad hit for your career to be over. And I said, you tell me you can't, because one, you're leasing the house. You're leasing all these fancy cars. So what happens is you're talking about depression. The only person that usually owns something out the relationship when they're out of the league is one person. Guess who in their family owns the only thing that they actually purchase?
Who?
Their mom.
Wow.
What does every player do?
A house.
A
house.
You buy your mama a house.
That's the first thing they want.
The first thing you do is you buy mama a house. But you don't even buy yourself because you're jumping from team to team to team. So you're leasing cars, leasing this. You own nothing. So you depleted all the money, and then the only person that you bought the house for is where you end up going back to live. And then she going to lose the house eventually because you bought her a house in a neighborhood that she really couldn't afford to live in without you being able to pay the property taxes. So again, so now you're depressed because 60,000 people aren't yelling your name anymore, and you don't have the financial resources to be the big dog in your city no more. So can you imagine? So it's bigger than just wealth. Imagine what that does to somebody's spirit, their mind, just their energy. And we wonder why we see NFL players or NBA players or baseball players leaving these leagues messed up. So again, the family, they don't like me because I hold them accountable. Like, no, we're going to set him up that he can take care of the family for 20 years from now. So I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad cop.
It's like, no. See Larese come in, huh?
Oh, yeah, because Larese ain't going to feed my guy to death. Larese ain't going to do that. See, they'll get somebody from the league, or they'll get, well, this company is huge, Larese. They've been after me. It's about 100 players that go to him. You only got a couple. They say you don't really know. And then when I come to the table, it's like, okay, we got to get rid of him. So we going to use the uncle to get rid of him because he does know what he's doing. But we just don't, we want to get the money from him. We want to make that 10% off his investments, so we got to get him. Larese ain't selling him nothing. He just giving him direction on what to do. I'm their quarterback in their life from that perspective. So, again, it's like we got to make sure that we create some system as these young guys are going to the league, that we put something in place that will protect that wealth. Because just imagine hundreds of guys making billions of dollars. If it was controlled, what that could do to cities all across this country.
I know we getting ready to close out, but you mentioned something because we talk about mental health in sports. But what about mental health being an entrepreneur and a businessman in general? Explain that to us because that's something you never hear people talking about, like the mental of handling employees, but then going home having to be a husband, having to be a father. So explain like the mental health part of being just a
And
businessman, period.
and if I can throw
Go
this
ahead.
in, managing all the businesses that
Yeah.
you do as well.
So
That was actually gonna be my next question. but-
so that's a great question because we know one thing, and we went through something that prayerfully we never go through for the rest of our entire lives. This pandemic, it was one thing to ask that question, 2 years ago, not to add, COVID to it, where, it's hard for anybody to find an employee just right up the street. If we ride down the street where the KFC and the Circle K and all those factories, I can't think of the name of the street right now, just a mile up the street right from here. It's about 20 factories on that street. I guarantee if you leave here and you ride down that street, every lawn has a now hiring sign on. And even some of them, because they got to compete against each other, is 20 companies and about 19 of them are hiring. About 8 of them have sign-in bonuses. So not only do we have to deal with the issues as entrepreneurs and all the stress and all the struggles, now we have to deal with that we're burnt out. Ain't nobody talking about that. Entrepreneurs are burnt out right now. So when this pandemic is over, yes, people are going to come back to work because unemployment will stop.
Right.
But who's going to help the entrepreneur, cross that wall they've hit? Because almost every entrepreneur I know in Cleveland has hit a mental wall.
Yep.
And it's like now they got to re-engage new employees, train them, build the company back up, but they have no energy. They've lost their passion. I truly, that was a great question. I said, we're talking about giving them resources. We're talking about giving them technical assistance, but we need to really do something to deal with their minds right now because people are burnt out in this city. And again, if we have it, if we're in a place where our entrepreneurs lose their passion, it's going to change our community because they are the foundation of our community. So again, I would encourage, agencies out there to do that. If you haven't thought about it, get with these entrepreneurs, maybe create groups where people can talk through their pains and the struggles, what they went through, how they lost their family's resources trying to maintain through this pandemic. But it's a lot, man. It's a lot. And for me, how I manage is hiring great people. Hire great people. Don't be afraid to pay people. Sometimes we're like, well, I can't afford. No, you can't afford not to hire people that can add value. If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together.
That's an old African proverb.
Absolutely. So my thing is, I hire great people and I invest in them. I don't let them see that, oh man, Larese is getting it. Larese is getting it. No, you can get it too. What do you want to do in life? How can I add value to who you are and what you do? You want to be on a board? Yeah, you're my staff accountant, but you need to be on a board of directors. How do I help you create succession within this organization? So again, man, I've been blessed, and shout out to everybody that works with me in any capacity that I work in. You guys have been a blessing to, God being able to use me.
Why don't you close us out, sir?
All right. So this question we love to ask our guests. If Larese could go back in time and talk to a young Larese back when you were younger, knowing what you know now, what would be your message to him?
That's a great one. I've been asked that before, and it changes every year, it seems like. I would say is travel the world at a young age.
That's a good answer. That's a great answer.
Travel the world. That's something. I got married when I was 19 out of high school. I was married my second year in college. So I'm walking around with a ring on my second year of college. So it was a different college experience for me at Bowling Green. But I would tell you, is travel because exposure will change your freaking life.
Exposure leads to expansion.
Oh my Lord, it will expand every area of your mental, your physical, just everything. And I'll tell you, for me, it's like when I finally got the opportunity to go to different cities, different countries, deal with different people I didn't deal with traditionally, it changed my life, man. And what it did was it gave me capacity to be able to bring something back to elevate the people around me and the people that I want to help. And then I would say to add to that is put yourself in rooms that make you uncomfortable. Because it's always natural to be around people that you know support you, that you support them. Go in rooms every year. I challenge my partner, even Mel Trees. This year we're gonna go in rooms that we know nobody. Nobody. I want to go in rooms I don't know anybody. I come in there like, who is that dude? And that's gonna be an opportunity for them and for me, for us to learn something new about somebody different. So for me, I would just challenge you again. Don't go with your homeboys from high school. Go travel another country, meet somebody different, and engage people and expose yourself, because that exposure will be life changing to you. So,
Larese, how can the people find you?
so just check me out on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat at Larese Purnell, and just follow me. We got a lot of exciting things. I got some big things in the work that I'm working on, and just stay tuned, man. Your support is much appreciated, and if I can do something, I can't overcommit, but it's something that's in my power. I would love to continue to support those doing great things in this community.
And we want to thank you all for watching or listening to this episode. Please do us a favor. Like this video. Subscribe to us at the Black Culture Podcast on YouTube, Apple, Google, Spotify. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Black Culture Podcast. Larese Purnell, the Willie Ashford. Peace.
Peace.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Price with the Black Culture Podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our channel. We're on YouTube, Apple, Google, and Spotify, where we talk about everything about the Black culture. And
Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Black Culture Podcast.
peace.
Peace.